Hi there, welcome to I Alone Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Capricorn energy, and we're going to do this 10 card spread. And we're going to read the different stories in here. Some of them might apply to you, some of them might not. Capricorn energy can be about what we find victorious and successful. And that can maybe be something that people who are a Capricorn sun sign or had significant Capricorn placements could struggle with, right? And Capricorn is earth sign energy. Um, Maybe they have a little harder time than some other people, or maybe not. It just depends. We got a mix of astrological placements, but we all are tempted by these things of the world. And there's these things of the world that we want to invest in and we want to manifest. And high vibe Capricorn would be that I view high vibe Capricorn as the King of Pentacles, where you've healed and grown and matured yourself and you've kind of become more independent of your more shadowy nature. And you are who you say you are. And we start out with the Queen of Pentacles. If you are who you say you are in the King of Pentacles energy, which can be how you present yourself in the world, it's because internally you're a Queen of Pentacles. So the queens can talk about how we think and feel. The masculine energies just can represent how we present ourselves in the world. High vibe people really are who they say they are. They are an emotionally mature, stable, grounded person at whatever level of life they're at. You can be an 18-year-old and you are who you say you are, and you have the emotional maturity of more of a mature 18-year-old. That's going to be different than someone who's like 35, right? But you're not trying to present yourself as different than who you really are. But other people, on the other hand, can present themselves like a King of Pentacles, but emotionally, the truth is they're kind of more about themselves or the world and things they like to indulge in to make them feel better or that they make important in their life to define their worth and value. Um, at the end of the story, we have the Emperor energy, which is either you've learned all these lessons in life and you're inspired to keep growing and healing and maturing yourself to kind of grow to your full potential. And some people have no interest in doing that. They might want to look like a boss in the world, but that means you would have to have learned all these lessons in life, because a high vibe emperor is someone who's learned lessons in all four suits of the kings. And that would mean internally they're an empress, which means they've emotionally learned all these lessons in the queens. Living from your heart, your mind, your 3D world, your passionate nature, realizing all four of them are equally important, which as we're growing up in life, again, we kind of think we're the boss. We have a lot of things we want to manifest in the world. Some people think it's just more about them. Some people just want the King and Queen of Pentacles as the only married suit of the deck, but the King and Queen of Pentacles can also represent workplaces and friendship dynamics and all that stuff too. But in shadow, it's more that some people are like to be in friendships and relationships for how more it benefits them and maybe how they can indulge themselves in those relationships and how it is good for their ego or their image, but it's not really more motivated and inspired by authentically by love. And for other people, it is. And so you're either a little bit more about yourself or you're have learned these lessons that if I want to be in more emotionally mature, stable, grounded, loving relationships, I need to be that type of person. And some people think, no, I just need to look a certain way, present myself a certain way, and I don't really have to do love. Okay. So the overarching reason for the reading is the card not showing itself, which is the Eight of Cups. When these cards aren't showing themselves, it can mean that we have people in our life that we might not know yet, that they harness these energies differently than we do. And they don't know that we harness them maybe in a more high vibrational way. So let's go look at what those cards are. The Eight of Cups, the Eight of Pentacles, the Judgment card, and the Seven of Wands. So some people have learned how to love themselves. Aries energy of the Emperor is about the self. Some people have learned to love themselves. They can offer themselves a cup of love to work through issues and work through their own fears, their own insecurities, things like that, and to kind of see through illusion and see that it isn't supposed to be just more about them, and probably not get tipped out of balance where it's more about these things of the world. And there are people who are willing to deal with the truth in the Eight of Pentacles. They are willing to put in work and effort to grow and heal and mature themselves, to offer truth and love to themselves and others, but wanting to work together with other people who are more independent, who have learned to love themselves and inspired to put in work and effort to work through their fears and insecurities and self-limiting beliefs, or their shadow nature of thinking it should be more about them. People who are willing to hold themselves accountable for their actions in the Judgment card. There's a lot of people in the world that, and then in the Seven of Wands, again, being inspired to be more authentic and motivated and inspired by love. But right now, we could have people in our friend group, our family group, people we work with, and, some of those people, it doesn't really matter because we're not involved of a relationship with them. They can think whatever and feel whatever way they want. I don't care. Can we still work together and get along? Yeah, okay. But sometimes we have people in our life, and some people don't know it yet, that those people harness this energy in a more shadowy way, which can be, I might want to move forward with you in a relationship and work with you in some way, but I'm kind of a little bit more about indulging myself, and I might kind of like to be indulged in a relationship where it's a little bit more about me, because they have decided to operate and defend standing up for their more egoic nature of self. It's a little bit more about me. And it could be that they're immature. It could be that they're just defensive. I'm not ready to be more authentically myself. I have some lessons to learn. I'm still in my self-protective nature. Or maybe I'm kind of full of myself or whatever, right? So some people right now have some people in their life that they might not know that they do harness these energies differently. And some of us are in relationships with people that we harness these energies the same way. High vibe people are in relationships with people who are more independent, insightful, hold themselves accountable for their actions, inspired and motivated by love. Those are the people we're probably going to keep working with. Why? In the Page of Swords at the center of the reading, in our air sign energy of our Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini energy of what we think is just and fair, our dreams, our truth, it's the same. And we can let our more hopeful, believing, authentic, loving nature out to play in the world because we're working with people who temper their ego. And they're in that energy also. They're being authentic. In the King of Swords, which I view as Libra energy, represented by the scales of justice, they're balanced people. They temper their ego nature and thinking it should be more about them. They're motivated and inspired to work together with people in love. They are good people to be in friendships and relationships and date, marry, or work with because they're good leaders in the world. That's high vibe Emperor energy. And then there's other people in our life who we probably don't have in our life anymore. Some of you have already cut some of the people out of your life who you came to realize harness these energies in a more shadowy way. They wanted to be more indulged, more about themselves or the world, and more about them or their ego or their image. And that's our truth. And you saw the truth of it, and you distanced yourself from them and are no longer called judgment on them, and you're moving forward in your life. So let's focus right now on the people who harness some high vibe Capricorn energy. If they just now are thinking of walking away from something, whether it's a job, a friendship, a relationship, or a way of living life, or how they used to kind of indulge themselves, or if they already did it, regardless, um, they want to wrap their brain around it. I want to deal with the truth. If I was investing in some people, which is what the Queen of Pentacles can talk about, and I used to think my dream could come into reality because the 8, the 9, and the 10 is Pisces energy, that I had this dream. And I worked with some people, and then I found out that, oh, that's not their truth, or they're more defensive or something. Um, I want to make sure that I deal with the truth of this situation because I don't want to repeat that pattern. What what wasn't I seeing? And the Hermit can talk about kind of looking at those things that were hidden in the dark. And the thing is, with the masculine cards here, whether people are male or female, people can present themselves in the world. That's what kind of the masculine cards talk about. But some people aren't who they say they are. But they try to present themselves as, yes, I am this just and fair and stable and balanced person. I have learned all these lessons in life, and I make good decisions in my life. And if you're working with me in some capacity, I will take, if my decisions affect you, I will equally, be willing to take you into consideration in my decision making. If I am working together with you, or I'm in a more involved relationship with you because I love you. That is the impression that they make. But some of those people, that's not the truth. They present themselves as being that type of person, but they really weren't. And um, sometimes we could have invested in someone and we weren't really seeing the truth, because the Virgo Hermit is about seeing the truth. But sometimes we're kind of turning back our back on the truth, maybe because in the Five of Cups we're sad. Maybe again, some other situation didn't work out the way we wanted. We could have gotten into another relationship because we still hadn't worked through the regrets of a past relationship. And we didn't realize, because uh, the Aries energy of the Emperor is fire sign energy. Um, the King of Swords, air sign energy. We meet people and it's like, oh my gosh, we could think this is the person. And for some of you, maybe it was someone that you felt like in the Five of Cups that you'd missed an opportunity with before, because we can get in different friendships or relationships and we don't get in other friendships and relationships. And maybe you thought it was someone that, maybe they are more aligned with my truth, right? And they do seem to present themselves as being a just and fair and stable and grounded person. And you could be attracted to them. Maybe they're bright or intelligent, attractive, charming. It just depends, male, female, what you're looking for and why you're wanting to work together with people. But if we haven't worked through some of our regrets of the past, that can be the energy that we're in when we get in the relationship. And maybe in the Eight of Cups, we could have a little fear of kind of moving forward in life, being more independent. And we could have been in more codependent energy, looking to get in a friendship or relationship a little bit more out of kind of really willing to, well, because we're sad, maybe, right? And so then we can get in that relationship, and the pages and the one sword can be that we have this new beginning. It's like when two people come together in a relationship, it creates like a new energy in the world. Sometimes you physically create babies, but sometimes it's just a new energy that didn't exist before when two people weren't in a relationship. And then when you do start working together, it's like it's created a new energy in your life that didn't exist before, right? And and we can all work in those relationships for a period of time, and in a lot of ways there could be a lot of things about it that we do agree on or get along about. In a lot of ways it can seem just and fair, and a lot of ways it is just and fair, right? But then during the course of a relationship, if someone starts to do some of this work, and we can get in a relationship with people and we're both sad that something else didn't work out in our life, right? But if one person during the course of the relationship starts to do some of this, emotionally invest in doing some of this inner work to work through some of those regrets of the past, then in the Six of Cups, they kind of come to a place of peace and balance about it. They offered truth and love to it so that they could come to a place, and Libra energy can kind of come talk about coming to a place of peace about something. I have reconciled myself with some of these issues in my life, whether it was past pain and heartbreak, fear, insecurity, codependency, ways I used to live my life that I thought were just and fair. And the whole thing is, it's kind of like giving birth to a new you, because you're not in that energy anymore. And it could have been other people, it could have been people we grew up with from childhood, it could have been our parents, it could have been people we knew from childhood, it could have been even things we did that we regret. And then, we just offer truth and love to it, because we all have these lessons to learn, and we offer ourselves love and compassion and forgiveness. We offer love and compassion to other people in our life so we can kind of let the past go. And then, we view life a little differently. And then if we're in friendships and relationships with other people, well, maybe they didn't do that work. And so they thought you were going to stay in this energy, but then, you kind of view life a little differently. And it could have been that everyone was a little bit more tipped out of balance a little bit by not having learned to love themselves, not having reconciled themselves with issues from their past, being a little bit more inspired by the world, living a little bit more from their mind and their heart. Um, but if one person does the work and the other person doesn't, well, the other person could be a little more defensive, because the fives talk about change. You changed. When we got in this relationship or friendship, you used to feel this way, think this way, live life this way, view life this way. And I was fine to work with you in that energy because I viewed life that way, lived life that way, invested in things, and had a certain idea of what I thought was just and fair, and so did you. But now you've kind of got maybe a little more balance within yourself, reconciled yourself with some of those issues, kind of set yourself free from some of those issues that at one time used to kind of manipulate you, that impacted the way you viewed yourself and you viewed the world and how you viewed the relationships and what you thought was just and fair. And now you kind of look at life a little differently. Well, then some of the people in our life, well, they don't view life differently, and they still want to do this. And that's when, which some people could be in that situation right now, that one person, both people in a way could want to get out of the relationship, because how we want to move forward and what we find emotionally fulfilling and what we want to invest our time, energy, and effort into, and what our truth is different. And one person could still be defending viewing life and living life, the way they had been living it, but you're kind of defensive to living your life that way, and you kind of want to move forward in life a little differently. We've all went through this. We were 15, we were 18, we were 21, we were 25, and you know at different times we're kind of ready to move forward in life a little differently, and some of the people in our life aren't ready to detach from some of those ways of living life and viewing life to move forward with us at that time. And you know just kind of our truth is different. And so sometimes, just like we did when we were 15 and 18 and 21 and 25, it can be hard to kind of become kind of independent of some of those people, The Eight of Cups is walking to the Nine of Cups. The Eight of Pentacles is going to the Nine of Pentacles. And the nines can talk about, I'm kind of ready to close out a cycle. And it can be, we can live our life and enjoy our life for a while, but if we keep kind of repeating an old pattern over and over and over, there is nothing new to learn there. It's kind of like we learned everything we needed to learn, and we are maybe do this work to work through our fears and insecurities to move forward in life a little differently. And we work through the fact that, I'm not going to indulge in this anymore, and I'm not going to keep acting like that anymore. I have this dream, and it's kind of, I'm ready to move forward and kind of investing and loving and believing in myself and getting the justice I deserve. Part of that is that, when I feel like maybe the only reason I'd keep staying at a certain phase of life is just because I'm fearful of making a decision, because the Emperor can be about making a decision, speaking my truth, facing my fears. I have to be inspired to overcome a way that I used to look at life as victorious and successful, like we did at all those other stages of life. But then there comes a time that I could feel like the only reason I'm not moving forward in life differently is because I'm fearful of moving forward in life differently. And then who likes to feel like I'm making decisions more out of fear and insecurity, like I don't love and believe in myself, right? And so then that's when people start to do this work to work through it. And then they are ready. And then I think high vibe people communicate their truth because they love the people they're in a relationship with. That, you know, just how I kind of maybe work through some of those issues. I've kind of come to peace about some of those issues. Those things don't drive and motivate me the way they used to, or affect me the way they used to. And um, I just have a different way now. You know, you could look at it that my truth of what I think is just and fair has matured. At all those stages of life that we went through, 15, 18, 21, 25, for example, when we went to that phase of life, it was fresh and new. And then we kind of learn lessons, hopefully, during that phase of life, and we kind of grow and mature ourselves. It's just like when we went into middle school, it was scary. And then we got to be like a ninth grader. And same when we went to high school, it was scary to start down at the bottom again as a 10th grader. And then by the time we were a 12th grader, kind of felt like we were the boss, you know? And that's the thing with anything, leaving a job. Well, I'm going to start out fresh at a new job. And that's kind of scary. Um, but the more practice you have at doing these things in your life, the more kind of confident you could feel within yourself that, when my intuition tells me that it's time for me to move on, and I make peace with the fact that my intuition is telling me it's time to move on and work through my fears and my insecurities, and then I kind of communicate my truth. And And if it's a friendship or romantic relationship, I think you would communicate your truth to people, but they have their free will. If they want to move forward in that way, it might require them to work through some issues, or could still be caught up in the illusion of that phase of life and they want to keep living their life at that phase of life. Maybe don't want to see the truth because both the Hermit and the Eight of Pentacles is Virgo energy. It takes work and effort to work through those things that kind of manipulate us and our fears and our more worldly nature and our more codependent nature and our self-indulgent nature and our prideful nature to keep growing and maturing. And we have to hold ourselves accountable, and we have to make these difficult decisions in our life. And maybe some of the people that you could have known in your life at one time, they never worked through some regrets of their past. And that affects the decisions that they make in a relationship. Uh, Maybe if they're a little more shadowy, maybe they do try to emotionally manipulate people in relationships. And some people maybe are wanting to keep repeating an old pattern. This is how I view life. This is what I think is just and fair. And this is how my friends or my family live life. And you should act like this and behave like this because that's what I do. And, high vibe energy is living your more authentic life. That's high vibe Leo energy. I'm not wishing anyone ill will. I'm offering truth and love to people to work together with me in a just and fair way, treating other people the way I like to be treated. But I'm going to live my more authentic life. I'm going to be more independent in the world, not make my life as much about conforming to uh, how my neighbor or my sibling or my friend live their life. You have your things that you like to do and people you like and things you like to invest your time and energy and effort into. And that's maybe not, some of those could be some of the things I like too, but I have my own unique things that are unique to me as an individual, that and people and things that I like to invest in out of love. You don't have to love all the things I love or the people I love. I don't have to love all the things you love and all the people you love. But can we still work together and get along? And some people are a little more, if you've worked through some things that manipulate you and some of those things still manipulate them, they cannot like it because it kind of illuminates that these things manipulate them. And so then sometimes some of those people, they don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore because just having you around, like, say you used to be around people that the Nine of Cups can talk about overindulgence and things. Maybe, well, just take drinking, for example. If some people really like to indulge in drinking, and now you're kind of more balanced about it, that it's like, I used to maybe look at it more to be the answer to my problems. I know now it's not the answer to my problems. And it was just stopping me more from moving forward in my life and feeling more balanced within myself. So now you might drink more in moderation. Well, if you're hanging around people who still really like to overindulge in drinking, they cannot like having you around because you're kind of doing it in moderation. And it kind of highlights that they are overindulging. And they'd rather hang out with people who are doing what they're doing because nobody is illuminating anything that they might invest in. And it could be money, it could be power, it could be ego, it could be pride, ego, uh, conforming to the world, acting this way, dressing this way, hanging out with these people, not those people. And if you're not that type of person, it kind of illuminates the difference. And some people don't want to see the difference. So if you're just gone, then I can just hang out with people that do what I do or look at life the way I look at it. And there is no one around that we hang out with. That kind of illuminates kind of a different truth. I don't even want to see a different truth. I don't want to look at the truth. I could be invested emotionally in hiding the truth. And that I might invest in things that, and indulge in things or people or whatever, maybe because I haven't just learned to be more independent, haven't learned to love myself. I am more maybe codependent. And I'm looking to invest in other people who are maybe more codependent or define their worth and value by what they wear and who they hang out with or what they do or whatever it is they indulge in that they think will make them happy. So there's some people in your life who you could feel like that's our comfort zone, and everybody is free to live their life whatever way they want. If that's what they think is just and fair and that makes them feel balanced and stable within themselves, it's kind of like, do we all have the potential to be more bold and brave and confident and more authentically ourselves? That potential exists, but it takes work and effort to work through those issues that try to manipulate you. And if someone were trying to force someone to be more bold or brave or confident or authentic when that's not where they're at, that'd be like someone trying to shove you out onto the stage of life when you're not ready. And we have to respect that everybody is where they're at. Just like we were there, and if somebody kept trying to tell us and make us live our life, I'm not there yet. If I get there, I get there, but I'm not there yet, And so there might be some people that right now are just kind of doing this work within themselves to work through some issues of their past, what they might not see coming. And sometimes people can do it because they look up to and admire some of the people in their life that they're in friendship and relationship with. And they could think, I need to do some of this work within myself, or maybe those people will become defensive to me, and I want to be in this job, this friendship, this relationship, and they seem more balanced or mature than me. I'm going to do this work and effort within myself to work through those issues so that they'll be proud of me. And then sometimes you can do that work within yourself, and those people are like, what did you do? Well, you've changed, and then it's like, if I had wanted to be in a relationship with someone who was more like me or something like that, I would have gotten in a relationship with someone like that. Sometimes people want to kind of be in a relationship where people do view them in a certain way. And it's okay if you're a little bit more, uh, even if people are more immature, or people are more stubborn, or people are more self indulgent, or people do things that aren't kind of in their best interest. For some people, people want to be in a relationship with people like that because they could feel like it makes them look like this stable, grounded, just fair person. It kind of makes me think of somebody who likes to play the martyr and look at me, and oh, I know they do these things, don't they? And look at me, I'm just such this just fair, nurturing, loving person that I stay in a relationship with them. But if you do the work to kind of get on the same level as them, well, that's when you can kind of see the truth that they never really wanted you to really heal and grow and mature yourself to your full potential, because they kind of like this more codependent relationship dynamic. I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who is kind of on the same level as me in a way, because then you're going to keep maybe moving forward in life. And I never plan to move forward in life any differently. And I like playing this role in people's life. And in order to keep moving forward, then I would have to work through some of my issues that manipulate me. And I am very much in my ego about the fact that I don't have to change. I purposely get in relationships with other people who need to grow up and heal and mature themselves. They need to change, not me. And that's when there can be a problem in a relationship. And you realize that some of the people in your life who you did view as very maybe nurturing, stable, just for people, they could have been. But when it got to where they had to work through some of their issues and get out of their defensive nature or humble themselves, because in order to be a student of life and learn lessons in life, you have to humble yourself. And some people are like, no, I don't have anything to learn. I don't have anything to change. And I want to keep doing this. And you're like, well, I'm not that same person anymore. And I kind of view life a little differently now. And they're like, that's not my problem. We're doing this. And that's where in shadowy King of Swords and Aries, whether people are male or female, they can be kind of bossy and controlling. I'm not budging. At shadowy Queen of Pentacles, I'm not budging. This is my philosophy of life. This is what I think is just and fair. I don't care that you healed, changed, grew, matured, whatever. This is what we're doing. And that's when it's kind of like it's not working with people cooperatively, and you see the truth that it is a little bit more about them. and that maybe they operate a little bit more from their ego and their defensive nature, or being a little bit full of themselves. And so, and some people are just seeing that now. And some people right now could be doing this work within themselves to love and believe in themselves, to invest in themselves, of getting more balance within themselves, to stand up for what they believe in and speak their truth. The Page of Swords isn't an aggressive or hurtful type energy. It's just like, I'm just trying to speak my truth about what I think is just and fair. And, maybe initially some things I didn't used to think weren't just and fair, but maybe now I do. And maybe before I was more codependent and I wasn't willing to speak my truth, but some of those things and ways of being, I could find either the 5 and the 6 is Scorpio energy, that I could feel like we don't really have a more deep, meaningful relationship. And maybe I do feel like you think you're the boss and I'm like the employee, or you're like my parent and I'm like your child. And I don't want that kind of relationship. I want a more just and fair relationship inspired by truth and love. Are you in this relationship because of truth and love or not? And they might know that they kind of try to control people a little bit, but it might be because they have these issues from their past that they don't want to deal with. Well, it people may never choose to work through those things, and it can take years and decades to work through some of the issues. And if over the course of time you've kind of seen some of the things that you've seen manipulate them within themselves and the world at large and other people in their life, where again they could be kind of a little bit more codependent on the world and their ego or their image or other people in their life. And you just kind of see that there's things that kind of manipulate them that they might not want to see the truth of. Well, we can't make other people see the truth. You could tell them, I think this kind of manipulates you, or I think you make this really important in your life. And, you're so much more than that. You're more than what you wear and what you drive and how much money you have. And, or why do you let those other people kind of dictate how you should live your life? Why don't you live your more authentic life? And, everybody has their philosophy of life of what they think is just and fair. Some of them hide that they try to manipulate people. Some people can kind of hide that because things in their life didn't work out, or they have regrets in their past they haven't worked through. Even if they do things that are a little hurtful and unkind and you're hurt, um, they kind of think it's just and fair because they're kind of hurt or something. And other people you could find are more caught up in the world. They're more emotionally invested in those things, and you could find them kind of emotionally shallow and superficial and see the truth that love isn't really what drives and motivates them, and it is more about them and their ego and their image. So some people are doing the work to love themselves, to call judgment and be willing to be judged, but they're willing to stand up for themselves and speak their truth. Some people just aren't there yet. Other people already did do that, and they've already moved on from some of the people in their life who they know are more emotionally invested in a more worldly view of life or self view of life, and they've already called judgment on those people and view them as more motivated by themselves or their ego, and they've already moved on from those people. And, then when we meet new people in the world, other people don't know. They have their way of viewing life. And of course, they think their view of life is just and fair. And of course, that's how other people view the world. So the people who are more, we should get in a relationship to be in a relationship. We should get in a relationship for the status and the ego and the image. That's kind of their truth. And they can't understand other people who aren't willing to stay in a relationship just for those reasons. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Those people don't get this game of life. You know, those people have hope and faith and belief in love. You know, love isn't the answer. There is no such thing as love. Um, you're too independent. No one's going to want to be in a relationship with someone who's that independent. Or um, you're not willing to. Well, a shadowy relationship, which is, I view the Queen of Pentacles as Taurus energy, which has to do with our philosophy of life. More shadowy type of view of relationship is that whoever seems to have more of what, at least in their mind, that other people should want, and they think they've got it, whether that's looks, money, power, status, image, attractiveness, whatever, they think they should be the indulged person in the relationship, a little bit or a lot. Love is supposed to be just and fair. Truth. Love. You're supposed to treat other people the way you want to be treated. You're supposed to respect each other as an individual, and that everyone does have their own unique talent, skills, and interests, and everybody does have their own dreams and aspirations, and everybody kind of wants to grow to their full potential. And some people are like, no, it should be whoever has more of these things of the world is the person who's supposed to be more indulged. I have those things. It should be more about me. You should kind of give up your dreams. You shouldn't put in work and effort into some of your dreams and aspirations because you're supposed to look to me and be codependent on me. And I seem to have justice in the world. And so you're supposed to make it more about me. And I think that's just and fair. And other people are like, well, I don't think that's just and fair. I do have my own unique talent, skills, and interests, and I do have my own dreams and aspirations. And maybe before I was more codependent, or have been in relationships with people who were in relationships with people more like that. But I realize that's not my truth. I am inspired by a more just and fair and authentic and creative and inspired and loving type relationship, which that might not have been what I grew up with. It's kind of what the Six of Cups can talk about. And I might not have been used to being in that type of relationship, so I could have stayed in my comfort zone because, of course, this is how you're supposed to live life, and this is just and fair. And I kind of realized when I was in it that there's things about this I don't like. And when I even spoke my truth to some of the people in my life, they seem to be defensive to maybe working together with me in that way. So I kind of realized I need to go find people in the world who I do think are more inspired to be more independent and respect other people as individuals and a little less of being in their ego. And maybe some people who've worked through some of the regrets of their past, so they're independent of it, and maybe a little bit more independent of their friend or family group to not make those people their primary foundation, especially if they're going to be in a romantic relationship or a marriage with me. This should be the primary foundation that takes priority in our life. But for some people, they think, well, no, I want to be in a relationship with you, but those people are the primary foundation in my life. And actually, if those people tell me they don't like you, then I'm not going to like you and I'm going to align with them. It's like, okay, so what's coming up for some people who harness some high vibe Capricorn energy that they might not see coming up? The Six of Cups. Why? Because of the Nine of Swords. So the Nine of Swords is Gemini energy about what our truth is. And you put a lot of work and effort to get to the truth and accept the truth. High vibe Leo energy, also represented by the Sun card. I don't want to be stuck in regret. I don't want to maybe be defensive. The truth is, I accept the truth that everyone is different. Everyone is at different ways of living life and viewing life. There are going to be, in a world of duality where we have to have free will choice, there's probably as many people in the world aligned with kind of somewhere on the scale of a more worldly view of life. And there's going to be other people that are more aligned with a hopeful, believing, loving nature. And I have learned these lessons, and I've learned that not everyone is who they present themselves as. And um, I might need to get to know people a little bit more about to find out kind of what drives and motivates them, and maybe hang out with them in the Six of Cups to get to know them and see if they seem to be a little more full of themselves, if they seem to be a little more defensive, if they seem to be a little more authentic and kind of going with the flow type of people. Listen to my intuition. Maybe before I didn't listen to my intuition. Not be tempted and kind of stay in denial of the truth because of these things that I want to manifest. I have to deal with the truth. And if some people seem like they're still more codependent or haven't healed from past pain and heartbreak, I can be friends with people. I just might not move forward with them. Kind of get out of a certain stage of relationship with them to where we kind of go have a victory together. you know, I'm going to let them work through their issues. I can be a loving and encouraging person in their life. But, if we kind of get in relationships with people that already show us that maybe they have some things that manipulate them, well, if we get in a relationship with them, then a more involved relationship with them, kind of like, well, they've already got you in the relationship. There's kind of not the incentive to change, right? And it's harder to get out of the relationship when you've already gotten more invested in them. So it's like, you know what? I'm watching, kind of seeing what people are doing and what choices they're making and what they're investing their time, energy, and effort into, what they're not. If they seem to be repeating poor patterns, if they seem to be making immature decisions, prideful decisions, lust, greed, whatever decisions, self-indulgent, you know, and just kind of seeing the truth of who's who, and realize that not everyone is like that. And I probably have other people in my life who are more authentic and loving and encouraging. And all of that process helps you get to a place of peace about it. Accepting that some people are more immature, some people are a little more emotionally detached, some people are more emotionally shallow and superficial, and they're okay living their life like that, and other people aren't. It's like, if we're not going to have a more truthful, authentic, deep, meaningful relationship, I'm going to be sad. this is not this might be your idea of the dream life. It's not my idea of the dream life. And I would rather be single and enjoy my life and my friends and my families than being in a relationship with someone who I kind of feel like is more bossy or controlling or more stubborn or is more superficial or shallow or does immature, hurtful things to try to control or intimidate or manipulate me. I don't want to be, that's not what I want for my life. And people stand up for themselves. And so here we end with the one sword and we go to the nine of swords. It's like taking back the eight of swords. I'm not going to be up in my head about these people in my life that are living their life whatever way they want to live it and investing their time, energy, and effort into whoever they want to invest it in. The truth is, I see the truth that we're kind of motivated and inspired by different things. And my truth is different than their truth. And high vibe people kind of make peace with it so they can close out that cycle and move forward in their life, call judgment on it. And then they move forward in life differently. And probably have learned it all forced them to do this work within themselves, to work through their fears, their insecurities, their past pain and heartbreak, reconcile themselves with issues from their past. And now in high vibe Gemini energy, they're focused on truth and love, maintaining loving themselves and their own inner child, loving nature, standing up for themselves, um, speaking their truth, acting in their truth from a place of love with people, willing to work together with people, but it has to be authentic and just and fair. And I think you're at peace and you're moving forward. Now, some other people, the truth sets us free. If they haven't wanted to see the truth about something, they're going to keep repeating a pattern. They'll just, either the people in their life who live their life like that or view life like that, or that they're codependent on or codependent on them. I view the King of Swords can be a person's self-protective, defensive nature. Like, I'm not letting my little inner child of truth and love go out there in the world. They could get hurt and they need to stay here, and so kind of they over coddle themselves and kind of indulge themselves in this more defensive, self-protective nature. For some others, it's their more self-indulgent, egoic nature, and they don't want to see the truth that they're more full of themselves, and they'll go look to find someone else who they think is sad, who hasn't healed from some of the similar things that they haven't healed from, and views life in some of the same ways they do, and they'll get in a relationship with that person until that person maybe does some work and works through some of their issues. And then when they want to move forward differently, then this person will be defensive again and that person will move on, and then they'll go find someone else. Some people don't ever want to see the truth. They can be in relationships with people that they have love for, but if those people maybe want to do a more deep, meaningful relationship, nope, I'm not going there. That's the danger zone. If you're not willing to stay in a relationship and let me be more defensive, I'm not going there. I'll go find someone else who is. Like, okay. So, what's coming up for the people who harness a more worldly or shadowy Capricorn energy that they might not see coming up? And as you're moving forward in your life, you could have communicated your truth to some people to see if they wanted to work together with you. Um, I think if those people are in their process, you're not going to stay up in your head about it. If they work through it and if some of those people communicate with you that they do want to work with you, then, you can only work with people and kind of begin the process of this with someone new if someone is willing to invest in that with you. And some of the people you could have communicated with, are in their own relationships. They could be loving, high vibe people. Oh, okay. Oh, you did work through your regrets of the past or whatever, and you're with someone else. Okay, I got to accept the truth of that. For other people, just as you get to know people, to work through any defensiveness you have, to be willing to get to know people. And again, the pages can be, we start small, we're friends. I have learned that I need to stand up for myself, is what the masculine cards can be. I have my more emotionally vulnerable nature, my more emotionally mature nature. I do emotionally invest in people when I get in relationships with them. And I'm not willing to get in a more involved relationship with someone until we have gone through this process of kind of getting to know each other and seeing if people seem to have worked through some of those issues of the past and getting an idea of the type of person they are. And if some of the people, and some of you have been doing that with some people, if your intuition tells you, nope, I don't think they're there, you might keep them in the friend zone or social acquaintance. And if there's other people in your life who you feel are on that same page, well, then those would be people that you'd be more willing to speak your truth with, that I am willing to invest more in you to get to know you more. With everybody that we know in the world, we're not kind of revealing some of our truths, right? Because they're just a social acquaintance or a coworker. But with other people, we might be willing to get to know them more, invest a little bit more in them to get to know them, and see if, we have some similar, kind of seem to be on the same page or not. What's coming up for the people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Capricorn? We have the Queen of Wands, the Eight of Swords, the King of Cups, no, the Knight of Cups, the Nine of Wands, the Five of Cups, the Four of Wands, and the reason is because of the Hierophant. So, the Hierophant, like I view the Queen of Pentacles, is Taurus energy. They have their philosophy of life, just like you have your philosophy of life. It's just that they might be more motivated and inspired to live more from their mind than their heart because they're kind of in a mental prison about love, because they're defensive, because they've been hurt before. And so now their philosophy of life could be, I'm more about me. And it can be, I'm willing to get in relationships with people, but I am going to stay defensive. I'm not going to do a deep, meaningful relationship. If people want to be in a relationship with me, they can. I'll be in a relationship with them. But it's like the Knight of Cups can be, I'll create the illusion of love. It's also the Six of Cups. Let's create the illusion it's love. And in a lot of ways, it can be loving and encouraging and supportive. But they don't let their more authentic nature out to play in the world. So it kind of ends up feeling like people are in a relationship with someone, operating from their false person or their more cardboard cutout person. And I think what they don't see coming, some friendships, relationships, whatever, move on. They go get in another relationship having this philosophy or wanting people to be more codependent on them. Well, the whole thing is, if you get in a more codependent relationship, the people who might be looking for people to be loving and encouraging to them because of some things that have gone on in their life, it's kind of like children. They're going to probably work through that and they're going to want to move forward in life differently. And the same situation is going to play out. They could have people that get in a relationship with them, but over time, those people work through some of their defensiveness and some of their regrets of the past. And now, in their Four of Wands, like the Emperor, Aries energy, they're kind of ready to have a new beginning and move forward in life a little differently. And these people are like, nope, I'm in a mental prison about that. If you want to do that, I'll be defensive to you. Will I be sad that the relationship didn't work out? Probably. But I'd rather be sad about this relationship not working out than letting my more authentic nature come out to play in the world. I would rather go through the pain and regret of losing this relationship than the fears I have of letting my more authentic, vulnerable nature come out to play in the world. And because of that, they're probably going to have some people in their life who have wanted to be in a relationship with them. But it's like, oh my gosh, you keep staying in a mental prison about love. You say you love me, but then you're defensive. And then you can do things that are kind of hurtful and unkind or cold or manipulative or something. I don't want to keep being in a relationship with someone like that. And eventually, from the Nine of Wands down to the Four of Wands, those people work through their inner conflict about it of the Five of Wands. I would like this to work. I would like this to move forward, but both people have to be willing in the Five of Cups to work through those issues that manipulate them, to be free of them, to be independent of them. And you seem to be defensive to that. And if it's that there's someone else in your life that is your primary foundation, well, then enjoy your friends or your original family group if that's who they are. Enjoy your life with them. I'm leaving. And if it's someone else you want to be in a relationship with that you don't want to tell me the truth of, and that's why you're acting the way you are, sometimes we have to wonder when people are not investing in us. Why? They're complex human beings just like we are. That's what Scorpio energy talks about. Can they love you? Yes. Can they? Yes. Yeah. It's all these things. And it's just kind of more, the sevens kind of talk about which ones more influence them than others. And they're kind of making their free will choice and standing up for what they believe in, whether we wanted to see the truth of it or not. If they're not working together with us more authentically and cooperatively from love, then that's not their truth. We just maybe didn't want to see the truth of it, because then we'd kind of have to reconcile ourselves with that truth, and we'd have to speak our truth, and then we maybe have to walk away and quit investing in them. So it's kind of realizing that I might be staying in something that I maybe really don't want or find fulfilling. But again, it's more because I could be afraid of becoming independent of it. Well, then we don't like feeling, it kind of makes us feel manipulated. And then we kind of do that work within ourselves. Why would I stay in a relationship where I think people aren't working together with me more cooperatively? Why don't I love and believe in myself and stand up for myself and what I believe in? And I think eventually, generally, people do get to that point and people move on. So some of the shadowy people in the world might not know that some people in their life have been doing this work, and some of those people are getting ready to tell them their truth. This is how I am moving forward. I am not doing this anymore. If that's your truth, I wish you peace, but that's not my truth. And if those people are like, nope, okay, then some people are going to leave. And the people who might keep staying in their life just might be other people who would like to want to be in a relationship, maybe more for the ego and the image and the status, who also might be in prison about love, also might be defensive because issues that have happened in their life, and they're willing to work with them, date them, marry them. But they could be in it also then for their own purposes of how it benefits them, or they're both people that are at a stage of life that some other people aren't at anymore, and they're going to repeat that stage of life with someone else. But if you already know someone kind of has these issues that they don't want to deal with, if the next relationship, the next person kind of works through those issues, the same thing's going to happen again. And they're going to call judgment on this person again. But if they both are people who are more inspired by the world and looking like a boss in the world and being in a relationship to be in a relationship, or for these reasons, they might be willing to stay in a relationship, even if it isn't someone that they really love or want to be in a relationship with. But they get along well enough, and, can get along well enough that, it seems logical and just and fair, then they might stay in it. And if they're willing to be in relationships in that kind of energy where you could feel and know that other people are in the relationship and staying in the relationship for these other reasons, to each their own. If that's their truth of what they want to manifest in their life, that's their truth. For other people, it's like, that's not my truth. But you can do that. And high vibe people are going to close out a cycle. They're going to have a new beginning. Some of those people already closed out that cycle, communicated their truth with other people, are working together with other people, could get in more involved relationships or marriage with those people. But it's all the process of, it all takes time. And the Virgo energy talks about slow, steady steps. I'm going to align with that truth, invest in people who that's their truth. And that's more likely where I'm going to find people that their truth is kind of the same as mine in a lot of these areas. And I'm willing to get to know people, be loving and encouraging and supportive to all sorts of people. But I'm not going to get in a more involved relationship with someone if I don't think that's their truth, because I've already been there. I don't want to be in a relationship where I feel like someone's in the relationship with me for the wrong reasons, and I don't want to get in a relationship with them for the wrong reasons. And I think the high vibe people will be at peace and feel balanced within themselves, because knowing that the people they're working with and their friends and family members and whoever are in relationship with them because of truth and justice and love, and they're not people who are trying to emotionally manipulate people and control people or hurt people or be stubborn and prideful to try to get people to do what they want. You get to enjoy a life of being able to be authentically yourself with people who don't abuse kind of their power in a relationship with you and respect you as your own individual. So there you go, Capricorn. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.